Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article from Bleeding Fool, and it is from November 7th. And the reason you are seeing it now on the date that you're seeing it is because I am on vacation. So I figured since I'm not really going to be able to stay up on current events while I'm on vacation because I'm not taking my equipment with me, uh, then I was just going to do some stuff that it didn't really matter when it was reported, if you will. So that's why this exists. So just some fun stuff while I'm on vacation. Nothing, uh, no news stuff that's really depressing. Let's go with the pop culture stuff. So the article is They Live, a movie for our time. And if you don't know anything about They Live, and I skimmed the article really quick, it doesn't look like there's actually like any sort of summary of the movie in there. It's from, I want to say, 1988. Still features the single best fight scene in movie history. I will die on that bill between Roddy Piper and Keith David. Um, it's basically about Roddy Piper. That's him right here, and you can see this alien thing right here. That he's just like a regular dude, and he comes across essentially a conspiracy that things are not really what they seem, and he finds this box of sunglasses and puts them on, and suddenly he's able to see the world for what it really is, including people that look normal when you're just looking at them, but then when you put on the glasses, they look like this. And there's a bunch of street signs out there that say like obey and stuff like this. So it's a really interesting movie. So yeah, I very much recommend watching this movie. It's really good. So let's just dive into the article, and it's probably not a great summary of the movie, but oh well, there you go. So a couple of weeks ago, I took my own advice and bought a physical media copy of They Live, which I do have. I believe I have the steelbook of that from Shout Factory, which that's what I'd recommend getting. Because this has been on my list for years, but between David Vining's reviews of John Carpenter films and my ongoing discussion of the spirit world, it was time to take the plunge. So David Vining's one of the writers for Bleeding Fool. This is why the long delay. Well, back in the 90s, my housemates and I had the VHS tape on regular rotation, providing background noise whilst we played Team Fortress Quake or Duke Nukem, which of course features some of Roddy Piper's best quips. After repeated exposure, I naturally took a break. And here you can see this is actually a screenshot from the movie of what, like, the city looks like when Roddy Piper has the glasses on. So, but the film has never been more relevant and the source of many memes, although for young folks, the reference isn't always clear. That's why after a 2-decade gap, I had to stock up on bubblegum and take another look. And nice little reference there just to probably the most famous line in the movie is, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So again, this is a picture from the movie itself. This is nothing special to see here. One of the striking things about the film is how little it deserves an R rating. There's a lot of violence, but it's A-team level fare, neither graphic nor disturbing. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about it that way. And yeah, I knew it was rated R, but now that I'm thinking about what he said, yeah, I kind of see what I don't really see very much why. Like, it's nothing that you wouldn't see on like a regular TV show, like a Law and Order these days. Because the aliens are on the actual promotional material, so that's not an issue. I'm assuming that the brief and gratuitous nudity at the end earned the letter in an effort to make the film appear more edgy and therefore draw in the guns and boobs demographic. Yeah, forgot about that. That's the very end of the movie, but yeah, and I would put it as gratuitous, but I get the point of why it was done. So there's your rating. Says Roddy Piper essentially plays himself, a chipper beefcake dude who is down on his luck but still believes in the American dream. So here's the summary that I completely missed over, but it says he's so generic that his character's name is never even spoken during the film, and the nada in the credits is taken from the story the film is based on, which was 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't think I knew that this was based on something that was previously done. I'm not sure I knew that. Um, so, in terms of the plot, it's a typical fish out of water type film where a lone newcomer breezes into what seems a fairly normal town only to learn that nothing is what it seems. And that's a familiar film noir trope that also draws on the tradition of 1970s paranoid conspiracy films and the post Vietnam distrust of authority. And while you're looking at another uh, screenshot of the film, and this person is an alien, of course, and Roddy takes off the glasses. This guy looks like a regular human being and puts them on. Dude looks like this. So it says, in terms of music, pacing, story, it's kind of vanilla, so what's the big deal? It says The Enemy Within. There's something of a misnomer in the title and graphics, which conjures up notions of zombies or the undead. In fact, the villains are space aliens who appear to be normal humans. It takes special effort to detect or reveal them, and the vast majority of the population is unaware of the deception. I'd say that's probably a pretty good summary. So, well, my eyes betrayed me. I said I didn't see a summary, and I guess there's a couple places where it does kind of go over it, but not in one place at the same time, which was what I was looking for. Not picking that out. So the source material for They Live was written in 1963, but I can't help but notice similarities with the V television events that ran from 1983 to 1985. I would definitely recommend at least the V, the first television event. This is the original miniseries. Highly recommend that. It's excellent. It still, I think, holds up pretty well almost 40 years later. Um, the TV series itself, I don't really remember because I haven't watched that anytime recently. And the final battle is kind of herky jerky, if you will. It's okay. I found myself kind of, even when I watched it like in the last, what is it, decade or so, I was kind of like, eh. But the original miniseries, though, definitely recommend that. And a pattern reminiscent of Battlestar Galactica, the good one. So what's it saying there is the good one. Um, Oh, it must be probably the old series is what they're saying. But okay, I did watch I never watched the original, but the revival is I thought was really, really good, though I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. It says V premiered as a two-part miniseries in 1983, garnered a sequel with 3 episodes in 1984, and then was picked up a regular series in the spring of 1985. The show was about seemingly benign space aliens who arrive on Earth and look human but harbor a terrible secret. I don't think it's a spoiler at this late date, especially after the 2009 remake that front-loaded the big reveal. But the visitors are actually lizard people. Yes, they are. In any event, a similar dark secret lies at the heart of They Live, which was an overt critique of the Reagan era economy and culture. Watching it at the time, the condemnation of conformity and social climbing seemed a bit over the top, and honestly, I miss the days when terms like men and women were universally agreed upon. No kidding. So still, it was a fun niche movie until now, and yet another screen print of the film. Says, what knocked me out were those cheap sunglasses. So it says, if you've lived long enough, you've gotten to see how American liberals have systematically betrayed every one of their supposed principles. True. Abortion went from safely legal and rare to something we need to push on underage kids without their parents' knowledge or consent. Concern over women's rights now takes second place to the needs of dudes in drag to wag their wieners in the women's locker room. Is it any wonder that female or that male feminists like Joss Whedon, who chirped for years about their virtue, are actually casting couch perverts? Well, and that's why he hasn't done anything in Hollywood in a long time. Because this is what makes the film so relevant today. While the film targets symbols supposedly used to manipulate the masses in the 1980s, greed, patriotism, and mindless entertainment, we've moved to a whole new level of societal gaslighting and media manipulation. Mega corporations like Disney still play coy at times, but their grooming agenda is an open secret. Where's that article going to? It's another Bleeding Full article. Go check that one out. And this is Peter Samedi, who's actually I think the owner of Alterna Comics. Um, this is a documentary called "They Live" debuted in theaters. No shit. So yeah, definitely follow Peter Samedi, good dude. And he's worked with Roddy Piper before, so yeah, Roddy Piper unfortunately passed away years ago, but he did work with him. So follow Peter Samedi. Because moreover, the metaphor of using the right lens to see the world is the perfect getaway to understand the spirit world. That part of the unseen, sometimes translated as invisible, referenced in the Nicene Creed that most people have probably never think about even as they recite it. For almost 2 centuries, we've been told by the elites that the material world is all there is, and that every relationship should use a Marxist frame of economic and power dynamics. Today, marriage is nothing more than a limited contract without any spiritual meaning. Traditional morality is a prison designed by the ignorant, and true virtue and perfection comes from self-expression and the fulfillment of all desires, no matter how deranged or depraved. Yeah, that's a massive problem with our society today. Another screen print, and all these seem to be taken from basically like the same scene of the movie. Where he's picking up and down his glasses, and what he sees is basically like this, or actually, it's this right here is when he's pulling down his glasses. That's the scene. So kind of all from the same area. It says the glasses actually did work. How many times have people tried to explain Hollywood's and specifically Disney's bizarre turn towards alienating audiences and burning up money? Yes, the writers write what they know and live in bubbles, but who hired them? Who keeps giving them work? Between 2005 and 2010, Disney bankrolled 3 of the Chronicles of Narnia films, which were explicitly Christian and pulled in $1.5 billion. Yet, despite this massive cash cow, which still had the bulk of the titles waiting for an adaptation, Disney pulled out in 2009, leaving Fox to take over distribution of the third film. This is the equivalent of bailing out on the Harry Potter franchise halfway through the series. Who does this? And as far as I remember about the Chronicles of Narnia films, while they were visually appealing and I think, and I haven't read the Chronicles of Narnia since like grade school. Um, I think they stuck to the books, if I remember. Again, I could be totally wrong about that. I did watch them, and from what I remembered, they seem to. But I think They're what they made, like, this is kind of misleading, I think, even though they made 1.5 billion, I think they cost a crap ton of money to make as well, like in the high hundreds of millions of dollars, like high nine figures. So they probably didn't make a huge profit off of them, I think is the problem. That's why they stopped. Whereas Harry Potter was basically just like a money printing machine. So there you go. So I thought that was kind of misleading. It says, well, someone who hates the message of the films would do this, and these are the same people that try to stop the sound of freedom from ever being seen. Their idea of a good movie teaches things that are objectively evil. That's what Disney is these days. It says one can continue to come up with sick burns about how stupid Disney is, or one can accept that its behavior is perfectly rational if you apply the right lens. And another shot from the film. The truth shall set you free. It says the molestation scandal within the Catholic Church was attributed to a variety of causes, from a few bad apples to the burden of celibacy, but we now know that wasn't accidental. The abusers were concentrated around certain seminaries and protected by a small set of bishops. That's evil. It says consider that 1/3 of the graduating classes of 1966 and 1972 from St. John Seminary in Camarillo, California, have been accused of sexual molestation. Was the motivation to damage the church's moral authority or merely self gratification? Probably both. So this article took a dark turn. Said it is also not a coincidence that the same company pushing the sexualization of children also runs theme parks that are notorious hubs of child trafficking. Yeah, that's pretty sad too. A lot of articles about that sort of stuff recently. So in both cases, the perpetrators have inverted the language of morality to portray those who oppose them as haters, the enemies of tolerance and inclusion. And they live. Roddy Piper doesn't worry about hurting feelings. He simply takes care of business, which is what makes it so satisfying. Like he said, he's there to chew bubblegum and kick ass. Says it is rare for a low budget action movie to not only improve with age, but also to help provide a remarkable description of the state of the world decades after its release. Piper died in 2015, and I was thinking 2014 when I mentioned that he passed away before, so I was off by a year, just as the moment his film described was unfolding. Says he was also a Christian, and it is fitting that his work is helping to reveal society's hidden evils. And that is basically that. No, that is the end of the article, and we have this again. So yeah, that is it. So I'd highly recommend watching the movie, not because necessarily of the parallels to today that it had 35 years ago, but just because it's a really good movie, and I think you'll be entertained for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it is. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below about what the author of the article is saying. What you think about this movie? So let me know. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.